Hey, we are live. So I think we're live. Oh goodness. How's everybody doing tonight? Can you can you give me a 5x5 if I'm coming through? Oh goodness. Oh goodness. Okay. Give me a second, folks. Oh. This is the first time using StreamYard and it's a little new to me, so you just gotta bear with me while I'm getting set up. Thank you, T-Paw. Oh, that's what I'm doing wrong. Okay. Now, I think I got all the echo out on my end. I want to welcome everybody to my annual celebration of the Marine Corps birthday. Uh, this is the what is it? I've been out of the Marine Corps for 32 years now, 33 years, 34 years. I got out in 95, however long that is. So I do this every year. Sit down with a bottle of bourbon, and I usually have a cigar with it, but due to my health reasons, I have to limit the cigars to select occasions every year. And as special as this night um, is not as important as some of the other ones. And I usually like sharing my cigar with my son. So that's not going to happen tonight. But I am going to partake in my JW Dant. It's probably the finest bourbon. $16 will buy. I'll put it up against any $35 bottle any day of the week. But so the reason we're here tonight, November 10th, 1775, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. The Marine Corps was founded by an act of Congress 247 years ago. And every year, the Marine Corps celebrates its birthday on November 10th. They have, no matter where you are in the world, right now around the entire world, there are Marines on active duty celebrating this. And there are Marine veterans such as myself doing it too. We're celebrating. And so we're here tonight. I want to tell you a little bit about the Marine Corps if you don't know about it, and then tell you some sea stories. Uh, Farmer Corey says, tomorrow's Remembrance Day here in Canada. My husband is retired Air Force, and all he does is play stupid video games. Well, Farmer Corey, I heard I heard that being in the Air Force is a pretty good alternative to actually serving in the military. So you can let your husband know that a Marine veteran just told him that. Okay, I'm sure he'll appreciate it. But that's what you know. What? Oh, excuse me. That's what this night's about. This night's about having a little bit of fun. Um, always, always Marine Corps birthday always involves uh, copious amounts of alcohol. In fact, somebody compared the Marine Corps birthday to a bunch of armed alcoholics celebrating the founding of their cult, and I'm I'm gonna say I agree with him. That is probably the most accurate description of what November 10th is that I've ever heard. You know what? But it gives us a time to celebrate the history and the traditions of the Corps and the shared experience that we all have being Marines and Marine veterans. Um, it's a special community. There are only, I think last I checked, there are only about 186,000 active duty and reserve Marines. There is no Marine National Guard. It's active duty and reserves. So out of a 2.2 million man army or military, less than 1% is made up of Marines. Is that 1%? Yeah, less than 1% is made up of Marines. So as you can tell, it's a very very small club. It's very exclusive as far as how many people have actually been in it. Um, I will say this. And probably get jumping ahead of the game, but I will say this: anybody that has their head screwed on tight or straight and has a modicum of physical fitness um, can pass Marine Corps boot camp. It's not something. It is extremely hard. I will say that it's very demanding. I don't know what it's like now. There's been some changes. Uh, saw some things that I'll talk about later, but anybody can go through it. And the difference between the Marine Corps and the other branches of service, and I'm going to say this, and it's not meant as a dig towards the other services. Um, the Marine Corps instills the traditions and the history in every single Marine recruit. And by the time you leave boot camp, you know more about the Marine Corps as an organization than any other person coming out of any other boot camp knows about their branch of the service. Um, the Air Force just does not have a long tradition, just because it wasn't formed until after World War II. The Navy doesn't. They travel around and they've got a tradition, but they know more about the ships they're on than they do the Navy as a whole. Just from my experience, if you're in the Navy, feel free to contradict me. The Army tends to know more about the parent units that they're with. I mean, they wear the unit patch on their shoulder. Um, so the Marine Corps instills that tradition and heritage in everybody. And I'll tell you what, when you come out of Marine Corps boot camp, you're bulletproof. Every Marine recruit graduate that I've ever met was completely bulletproof, and it's the only people you can instill that in is 18, 19-year olds uh, that want to belong to something where the sum total of the parts are greater than the whole, or the whole is greater than the sum total of the parts, I should say. So anyway, so there. If you got any questions about the Marine Corps, feel free to ask. Here you go. If you want to get up, if you're a Marine veteran or you're an active duty Marine, let's see if it goes up there. Okay, there is the link to the StreamYard feed. If you want to come up here, feel free to come up to the studio, and you may have to walk me through getting people up on to the camera because I've never done this before. But if you want to come up here and you want to talk and you want to be on camera, feel free to come in there. Probably opening myself up to a lot of heartache because there's a lot of crazy people out there. Most of them have to be Marine veterans too. But I want to get people up here. Actually, part of the reason why we're doing this stream tonight is because we want to do. We talked about doing the conflicted game online some night in November, and you can't get multiple people up on the YouTube live stream. So the free version of StreamYard will allow us to get, I think, 6 people up here at one time if we want to. And so I'm testing it out, and I'm trying to figure out the best way to do that. So the more people that want to get involved, the better, because you're just helping me work out all the kinks and figure out how to do it properly. Yeah, Jasper's mom, we know that you're certifiable, girl. Taking a hammer to the CO2 detector tonight. So anyway, let's talk about some sea stories. So the difference between a fairy tale and a sea story is that fairy tales start with once upon a time, and sea stories start with this ain't no shit. And I apologize. It's gonna be some adult language, a little bit vulgar. I apologize. It's the only way I know how to tell some of these stories. And going into this, I'm gonna let you know that almost every single one of the stories is going to start with, we were extremely drunk one time, or man, I can't believe we got that drunk. So that's that's where we're starting from, and it's just it is what it is. And I apologize. I try to keep our channel family friendly, but this is one of those cases. It's why I tried doing it as late as we are. But anyway, so I grew up. I went to a military academy in high school. So I was in junior ROTC, Army Junior ROTC, and so from the time I was in eighth grade, I was doing Army stuff. Uh, Went through junior ROTC, and I was at Wentworth Military Academy, which is in Lexington, Missouri, and it was at the time one of five, they called them military junior colleges, and they had a program called the early commissioning program, which allowed people that had gone through 4 years of junior ROTC to start as military science 3 students. Basically you skip the first 2 years of college ROTC program, and it allowed you to get a U.S. Army 19. I would have gotten mine at 18. I would have been a second lieutenant in the Army at 18 had I continued the program. But as a result of that, after I graduated high school, me and my friends went to Fort Knox for the U.S. Army Basic Course, which was a 6-week course at Fort Knox. You do that. After your first year out of high school, the first summer out, you go to that. And we literally 5 days after we graduated, me and my buddy piled in my car, drove to Wisconsin, picked up one of our buddies, partied for a week, and then drove down to Fort Knox, picked up another one of our buddies. We had four of us with all our luggage packed into a 1976 hatchback Mustang going down there. And we checked in and spent 6 weeks down there and just had a blast. Got to learn a lot of stuff. My buddy JB and I, out of 2,500 cadets in the battalion, we were the two youngest people. We were 17 years old. We were the only 17-year-olds in the training cycle, and did really well. Both of us got a Army scholarship, but I figured out I wanted to play college football, so I went to Oklahoma and played football at a NAIA Division I school for a year, and basically gave up my scholarship. And then I figured out that I was never going to make it playing football. So then I went back to Wentworth in the junior college and continued on with the commissioning program. And that's when I figured out that I enjoyed drugs more than I enjoyed wanted to be an Army officer. So I kind of got really sidetracked. Ended up getting out of the program. Spent a year and a half bumming around, and then we get to this is my origin story. This is my Marine Corps origin story. So this is how I ended up in the Marine Corps. So I was working for a landscaping company, and I had worked there for a year, and I made it through the summer cut. So these landscaping companies, they'll hire a whole bunch of people on in the winter, in the summertime, and then as soon as fall comes around, they'll start laying people off because they don't need as many people, right? So I made the winter cut, and I was really happy about it. It was really cool, and we were sitting there one day. It was late August, and I was told to go do something, and it was one of the crappiest jobs on the landscaping yard, and I was like, why do I have to do it? The owner's son had just come on the crew, and he was brand new, had only been there for like a week, and I was like, I've been here a year. Go make him do it. And so the guy that was the landscaping manager and I got into a little discussion, and it depends on who you talk to. I was either fired or I quit, and like I said, it depends on who you talk to. Well, anyway, there was a bar right across the street, and in Kansas at the time, you could drink at 18. Actually, I just turned 19. You could drink at 19. So I went across the road and started drinking. It was about 10 o'clock in the morning. And so I spent the entire day in this bar getting sauced. Finally, it was time to go home. So I was driving home, and I went by, I had to go by this shopping plaza, and back in the corner of the shopping plaza was the recruiting station. And I had decided as I sat there all day long drinking that I needed to change. I was going to end up wasting my life if I didn't do something to change it, you know. So I went in there, and the only light that was on, it was like 7:30. The only light that was on was the Marine Corps recruiter's light. And I walked in there. So my dad was a Marine veteran, and my uncle was a Marine veteran. So I come from a family of Marine veterans, and so I had heard about the Marine Corps growing up. But at that point, I did not care if the Air Force guy would have been there, the Coast Guard guy. I would not have cared one way or the other who was there. I would have signed up with anybody. Just so happened it was the Marines. So I walked in there, and he starts giving his spiel. And anybody that was in the military knows how this goes. You walk in there, and they get this big smile on their face, and they how great it was. And I stopped him mid sentence. I said, hold on, just stop. I don't care. Just get the papers drawn up. I'll sign them. I do not care. And the guy before I went to boot camp said that I was literally, in 3 years of recruiting, I was the easiest recruitment, or the easiest enlistment that he had ever had, just because I did not, I didn't care. The only thing I had, we were going through the questionnaire, and at the time they one of the questions they asked was, "Have you ever done drugs?" And I was being truthful. I was like, "Yes, I have." And he stopped, and he literally goes like this. He goes, "Ugh. Okay, I'm going to say this again. Have you ever done drugs?" And I looked at him, and it clicked, and I go, "No, I haven't." And he goes, "Great. Just remember that." So, so that's how we made it past that. And he reminded me before I went to boot camp what my answers were, and I stuck to it. Now, folks, I'm not advocating using drugs. My thing of choice was marijuana. Um, I'm not advocating it. I don't do it anymore. Have not done marijuana since before I joined the Marine Corps. So that was 30 years ago. Uh, if you want to do it, it's fine by me. I don't care. I never could understand why it was a Schedule One drug, but that's a subject for another video. Uh, so anyway, I was in the delayed entry program. Uh, Almost screwed it up. Got into a car wreck. Almost got a DUI. Again, I'm not. Some of the stuff I've done, I'm not proud of, but I'm not going to deny it because it's made me who I am. Uh, got it. Was extremely drunk. Actually celebrating, getting ready to go away to boot camp, and got extremely drunk and wrecked my car. Somehow, by the grace of God, I got away with it and did not get a DUI. So I went to boot camp with scars all over my face from bouncing off the windshield, and with a sore neck. Um, Went to boot camp in actually went in November. Celebrated the first week I was in boot camp was Marine Corps birthday, which was very interesting. It was the first indoctrination to the Marine Corps birthday, and it was very interesting. So boot camp at the time was 13 weeks. We did not have all the stuff they've got now. So they've got the index on the Marine Corps cycle, the recruit cycle, is what they call the crucible, and it's a 72-hour thing. If I remember correctly, it's a 72-hour ordeal where they live off of very minimal rations, and they stay awake for 72 hours, and they have to do all kinds of stuff to show their proficiency. Uh, Farmer Corey says, "I haven't done weed in a week." You know what? That type of commitment is, I salute you. Oh, I guess this is my drug of choice now. I apologize. But oh, your jaw's wired shut. Oh no, that's terrible. Well, I hope you get better, Farmer Corey. Anyway, so I go to boot camp, and I had all this military training. I fired the first time I fired an M16 was when I was 14 years old. And the first time I fired an M60 was when I was 14 years old. In fact, when I went, we went when I was 14 years old. We went to Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri, and went to the junior RTC summer camp, which was a 2-week camp down there. They do for junior RTC cadets, and it's just basically, you get to fan fire some weapons, you qualify in the M16. But I went out. It was so long ago that I actually got to shoot an M79 grenade launcher at Fort Riley in 1980. That would have been 82. So I actually got to shoot M79 grenade launcher. Uh, so I knew the military stuff, the marching and all that stuff. That was extremely easy for me, and I was older. I was older than all the other cadets. I had turned 20 the summer before I went to boot camp, and so I was 20, and there were probably 3 or 4 of us maybe that were that old in the platoon, but everybody else was like 17, 18, 19 years old. So we were the old men, and it was really funny. So at 20, we were the old men of the recruits, but the sergeants that were there, there was a staff sergeant that was the head drill instructor, and then 3. Hey, Darren, how's it going, man? Hey, cheers to you, man. Gainesboro. Hey, better late than never. So anyway, the drill instructors were the old dudes. They were all sergeants and stuff, and they couldn't have been. Gosh, they couldn't have been more than 23, 24, 25. The staff sergeant was maybe 25, 26 years old. Yeah, Arthur. Yeah, I spent time. In fact, I got a Marine Corps tattoo right here, which I got at one of the tattoo shops outside Fort Leonard Wood. Went down there to visit. My parents lived close to Fort Leonard Wood, and I was on leave from my school, and so I went down there and saw some guys that were going through the engineer school at the time. So yeah, I got my first tattoo at outside of Fort Leonard Wood. There in what is it, St. Charles? Is that what's outside of Fort? No, not St. Charles. I don't know. You can post it. I don't remember what it is. It's been ages. But anyway, so we start the training cycle, and for anybody that's not been through Marine Corps boot camp, the way they break it down is it's broken down into four sections. So the first section is where they basically tear you apart, teach you basic military discipline, and there's lots of marching, lots of PT. They try to get everybody up to speed physically, lots of push-ups, that's when most of the screaming and yelling happens that you see. The second phase is weapons training battalion. This is what it was like when I was in. Second phase is weapons training battalion. That's when, and I went to San Diego. So we drove up to Camp Pendleton to Edson Range, and that's where we did fan fire on the pistol, and we qualified with the M16. And the Marine Corps had changed over to the M16A2 at the time, which personally, as much as I love the M16A1, the M16A2 was a much better weapon. So anyway, you go up there to qualify on that, and then third phase is more discipline and military training, and that's when you go through all the evolutions to see if you're proficient in your military skills and stuff. Basically, a lot of testing and everything like that, and then you graduate. So first phase, I made the mistake. This is when I learned really quick, and I should have known going in, but I was so happy to be at boot camp and doing something that I forgot about it. Never freaking volunteer. I had a bad habit. I knew all the answers whenever they asked these questions. So they gave us a great big book, and I wish I had my field manuals out. So there's a book. It's seriously, it's about 4 inches thick, and it's probably about this big. It's big enough. It's small enough it can fit into a cargo pocket on the old BDUs. But it's this monstrous book, and it's called your PRAC book, your practical knowledge book. And I knew all the basic military stuff. So I, like a fool, I raised my hand. So they made me what's called the PRAC private. And the PRAC private, his duty, and it sucked. His duty, anytime the platoon stopped moving, the PRAC private's job was to get out in front of the platoon and start going over this practical knowledge and stuff, and basically drilling people, drilling the platoon. I would say the average, or the effective range of an M16 is what? And they would repeat it back to me. Okay, Farm Corey, I never could understand the yelling phase. Tell me what you want, and I'll do it. No need to yell like I'm a dummy. Okay, Farmer Corey, that's a great point. So the reason why they scream is to create stress. That's the sole purpose of it. And you the first phase is made to tear everybody's individuality down. And they tear it down, and they make you feel like you're the lowest. In fact, we were told that we were well poop on the bottom of the ocean. That's one of the drill instructors told us that. And so the yelling is to create this stress and to get your mind thinking so that you can follow orders under stress. That's what the yelling's for. And the drill instructors, whenever they go through school, actually learn how to scream and stress people out, and they will practice it. It's funny as hell if you ever go on the like, not the recruit side of Marine Corps San Diego, it's the Depot San Diego. If you go on the base side of that, the West Coast drill instructor school is there on MCRD San Diego. These dudes will be out there screaming at trees. I kid you not. They give them the Smokey Bear hat, and they've got the brim of that hat right up against a palm tree, and they're screaming at it, and they're knife handing it. And they literally practice doing it. So it's not like it comes off as extremely organic as it's natural, but it's something that they actually learn how to do. It's actually, watching them learn to be drill instructors is actually a fascinating psychological thing. Just watching how they do it, it's completely fascinating. So that's what the screaming is about. The screaming is to get you to respond immediately to commands. So anyway, so I'm the prac private. So every time we stopped, I have to get up there and I have to do this stuff. And because of that, I am interacting with the drill instructors constantly. And I spent the entire first phase of Marine Corps boot camp terrified because I had to talk to these guys, and they would drop the hammer on you in a heartbeat. And when they dropped the hammer, our drill instructors were extremely creative. We had a guy. Well, first off, the you've got the senior drill instructor, then you've got 3 junior drill instructors, and basically, in order they go the senior, who's the most experienced, and then they've got the guy who is going to the next series will be a senior drill instructor. Then they've got what's called the heavy, and the heavy, his sole purpose in life is to make everybody's life and existence at MCRD miserable. And he's the stress guy. He's the guy that you can do no good, and he will stress you up. Come on in. We're just talking. Hax is here, and Jasper's mom is here. Teapot, Arthur's here. We've got
you guys are still going?
I missed Susquehanna Homestead is here. I forgot
nice.
to say hi to them. We've got quite a few people here.
Okay.
Say hi to Angela.
Hi guys.
Angela,
I'll get down with
we will talk about Angela in a little bit because
Why?
she is not a Marine's wife. She is a, what are you?
I'm a Marine wife.
A Marine wife, yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. There's a huge difference.
Yeah.
Jasper's mom, I've got an ex for that. Oh, her ex makes her stressed. She's been attacking the CO2 detector with a hammer because.
Can you share that seat, you think, or
no?
Oh.
Let me have my night.
I'll let you have your night. I was just coming to check on you, so
we're good.
All right. Hey, Jasper's mom.
So yeah, Yoda earned her stripes, literally.
And
you
then
did.
Some.
You did.
Then some.
Hopefully we get to it. I mean, I thought I was only going an hour, but we're only 30 minutes in. I'm only in boot camp.
Oh Lord.
Yeah, so I'm gonna have to pick and choose what I talk about.
Good thing it's Veterans Day tomorrow, right?
Yeah, I got tomorrow off, so we can go as long as I want. I may be here at midnight talking to nobody but myself.
Oh, good Lord. Oh my gosh, you guys. Oh, marine life is something different.
It is. It's definitely
Very
different.
different. Yeah.
Would you trade it for anything in the world? You
Yeah.
probably, you probably, you probably would have.
I did you tell him about Grandpa? When
Oh no, I didn't tell. I didn't. We haven't got that far yet. I haven't even met you yet.
Oh yeah.
I will. I will. Okay.
Oh man.
So while she's here, I will tell this story. Here.
Let me see if I'll just get down. Are you sure? Okay.
Yeah. I'm afraid the chair's gonna buckle.
Well, I'm not that heavy.
So Jasper's mom, Yoda's a Navy brat too, and
Yeah.
she comes from a long line of Navy people.
All the way back to George Washington.
So I met her when I was stationed on board the USS Ranger in San Diego at North Island.
Yeah.
And we decided to get married.
Yeah.
And we took a road trip. Her grandparents lived in
well, I had one in La Habra.
One in La Habra, which is outside of Los
Angeles. And then I had another in
Yucca Valley.
Yucca Valley at that time.
And then my grandmother lived in Mesa, which is outside of Phoenix.
Mm-hmm.
And so we decided to take a road trip and just tell everybody that we were going to get married.
Yeah.
And so we went and saw the grandparents in La Habra, and then we went to Yucca Valley, and her grandfather had a massive stroke, so he was bedridden, and he would communicate. He had one of those triangles that you use to lift yourself up off the bed, and he would.
That's how he communicated.
He would shake it once for yes and twice for no.
Well, he could use one hand, so he would do that.
So we show up at her grandmother's place, and I brought her grandmother, a bottle of.
She liked Johnny Walker.
Johnny Walker Red, because she liked Johnny Walker at the time, and so we go back to meet her grandfather, and she goes, "Grandpa, this is Garen, and he's a Marine," and that old man reached up and grabbed that triangle and started shaking it and just shake. He was making the entire bed shake.
So they were in Joshua Tree before they were in Yucca Valley,
which is right outside of 29 Palms,
right.
which is a major. Oh, hang on a second. I got a cat.
Yeah, Grandpa told us all the time to stay away from the Marines. We weren't allowed to be with Marines.
He was extremely angry, and Angela's like, "Hey, you need to step out." And so I did not go in that room the entire. We stayed there for what, 2 days?
Yeah, you didn't go in there.
I did not go in that room for 2 whole days because that old man scared the hell out of me. He was extremely upset. Yeah. And did you finally calm him down?
No, remember he turned the TV up all the way because he wanted Grandma's attention.
That's right. Every time she would go try to talk to him that weekend, he would turn the TV up as loud as it would go.
He was mad.
He was extremely upset.
Yeah, he was mad.
Oh, Jasper's mom's dad was on the Ranger.
When?
What year is Jasper's mom? So her dad
was on the Ranger.
Was on the USS Ranger.
He was VS-31
and met her mom when he was stationed on the USS Ranger, and I was on the USS Ranger in 91, 92. I was on the USS Ranger on 91, 92, and I met her when I was on the Ranger. So there's a long history of the USS Ranger going back. It's got a special. Well, it had a special place. Right now, it's.
You got the final cruise certificate.
So yeah, I got the final cruise certificate.
It's still there.
But it's razor blades right now because they broke it up. They sent it to get broken up and sold for scrap.
Yeah. A lot of people, I think, after that they went to the Enterprise. I think.
Yeah. I
think most were going to the Enterprise.
Okay.
Okay,
so I'm going to tell you another Yoda story. Let's see. Skanes Girl says my uncle was a Marine, and both brothers are Navy. Papa did.
I bet that's a fun Thanksgiving.
Oh yeah, lots of conversation there.
Right.
So she got pregnant before I went on my final Westpac.
Yeah, but we didn't know that.
We didn't know she was pregnant. She called me. We pulled into Yokosuka, Japan, and I called her to talk to her, because I want to let her know that we were doing okay. And she starts the conversation. She goes, "I got something bad to tell you. I got something you may be upset about." And
I wasn't sure where he was. We were so young.
The very first thought that popped into my mind was, "Oh my God, she broke my Jeep." because I had a 1984 CJ7 that I left with her, that so she could take care of it. It was my baby, and she goes, I'm pregnant. Oh my God!
I'm sorry, Jasper's mom. That stinks.
Oh no.
Yeah.
That's terrible. But she told me that she was pregnant.
And they danced. You were in Japan, right?
We were at the E Club on the naval Yokosuka naval base. We danced on the tables. I bought drinks for everybody.
Hacks, I didn't know that.
So had a really good time. Well, anyway, so we came back, and within a month and a half, they were decommissioning the Rangers. So they sent everybody that was stationed there someplace else. So we ended up getting stationed in Washington, D.C., which was, we were in San Diego, Washington, D.C. You were what, 8 months pregnant? 8.5 months pregnant. Yeah, you were 8.5 months pregnant when you left.
Yeah, something like that.
We packed everything that we had, because I was living on the boat at the time, and she was living with her parents. And when I wasn't on duty, I would go up there and stay with her and stuff. We packed everything that we owned into a small U-Haul and a Jeep Cherokee. I had to sell Pepe. This is how much I love this woman. I sold my 1984 CJ7. His name was Pepe. And Pepe and I were like this. We were inseparable.
We could have
lived with
Pepe,
there's
but
no way we
Pepe's top got stolen. So
there's no way we could have taken Pepe.
Yeah, my mom and dad's neighbor stole Pepe's top.
So anyway, I knew where every single military hospital was between San Diego and Washington, D.C. We drove cross country.
Jasper's mom, I was hatched in Jacksonville, Florida. Same year.
NAS Jacksonville.
Yeah.
But so we drove cross country. We got to Washington, D.C. on the
April 15th.
April 15th. We got an apartment. We had to get a condo because they had just condemned 400 Navy housing units.
I think it was more than that.
At Andrews Air Force Base.
Yeah.
They had 400 housing units there. They
Done.
had just condemned them because they were
unlivable.
So we had to get a place out in town. We found that. And then 2 days later, she had our son at Fort Belvoir.
No, on the 19th.
On the 19th. So it was we got the 15th, and we stayed in the hostess house on Fort Belvoir.
15th and 16th.
On the 5th, and that was her first experience with the hostess house.
No, and luckily somebody told me what to do. So I had to do a little fibby because in that I don't know, the hostess house, which is supposed to be like a hotel.
Yeah, it's a little
We
hotel.
had to share a bathroom, and some other jerk on the other side picked up some girl at the bar, and here I was pregnant. We had to share a bathroom, and it was not, let's just say, needless to say, it was bad.
She was not the cleanest person.
I went up to the front desk and I let them know. I said, my dad's an admiral, and you don't want me to stay in this room. You better figure this out.
You did not tell him he was.
Yes, I did.
You lied.
Well, there was an Admiral Alkire at the time.
Her dad was a Master Chief.
Yeah.
But anyway,
didn't matter. He moved us right away. So
yep. So we had our son, and it was first off, she accused me. We had to drive to Fort Belvoir, and if you've ever been to Fort Belvoir, which is an Army base, they've got this great big long straight road going into the base, and every 100 yards there's a speed bump.
Potholes. There were potholes first.
She was accusing me of hitting every single speed bump and pothole, like I was doing it on purpose.
He was.
So we get there, and we go up there, and the nurse that was in charge of her delivery was this old, crusty master sergeant. She had to be Vietnam era. Seriously, she was old, and she acted it. She was extremely grouchy.
They sent me home.
Yeah, that's right. Because the first time you had Braxton,
yep.
They sent her home.
It wasn't Braxton Hicks. I wasn't dilated enough. I went back the same day.
They sent her home, and then we came back because your water broke when we were at the house. Right,
trying to make the baby pop. Probably. Yep. now
so
it's Cobble Roads.
we get back to the hospital. Now because I was deployed the first 8 months of her pregnancy. So I did not go through any Lamans. I did not The only thing I knew what to do is what I saw on television. So we're in the delivery room, and she's like, I'm so thirsty, and I couldn't give her water, so I'm giving. She's like, give me ice. So I'm giving her ice.
He wasn't doing fast enough.
And then, well, I wasn't doing it fast enough, and then she got mad because I was doing it too fast. So anyway, she
trying
goes
to choke me.
she goes into labor, and
I didn't have Lamaze either.
oh, you didn't? I thought you did.
No, I never went.
But you started hyperventilating was what it was, and
well, nobody would listen to me.
And she
so
started.
That's the sucky thing about naval hospitals.
That was Army.
And
that
was Army. Yeah. So that was the sucky thing about that. I let them know how I was feeling, what was going on. Kind of knew where my body was going. I know my body very, very well. And so I know when I'm sick, I know what's going on. I can feel the differences in my body. And so I was trying to let them know, and they were treating me like I was crazy.
Well,
and so I was just getting frustrated.
You started hyperventilating. You started hyperventilating. You started getting a little panicky. And this nurse, no, I was there. I saw it. This nurse goes, smack.
Oh no, that was the captain.
Oh,
she was the captain. That was the I think she was
the
doctor.
No, that wasn't the doctor, because the doctor was a young guy. But this nurse literally slaps her. And when I say slaps her, I don't mean like a little tap. I mean a full on slap. And the room got extremely quiet.
I didn't know if I'd have been any healthier and really in that shape, I probably would have got up and punched her.
And she gets down in Angela's face, and she goes, "You need to settle down, young lady." So anyway,
yeah, no, it was a bulldog bedside manner.
Yeah, her.
Yeah,
but it was classic military hospital.
Yeah.
So things calmed down, and you got your breathing under control, and all of a sudden, the doctor comes in. The doctor sits down on the little rolling chair.
No, you're missing an important part.
Well, no, let's get to the birth.
Right, we're getting to the birth. I literally said, the baby is coming.
Well, that's why I was getting there.
Okay.
You start in the middle.
You had the doctor in there. Doctor didn't come.
No, the doctor was in there, and he was checking her, and he sat down on a little stool, and he spun himself around and went over to the little shelf on the other side of the room, and he's not paying attention. And Angela goes, "It's coming. It's coming. Oh my God, it's coming." And I'm like, doctor, it's coming. And he turns around, they've got her.
She's not dilated yet.
He was saying that with his back to us. And she's got her legs up and she's ready to go. He turns around, he looks across the room, and he goes, "Oh shit." Yeah. And he rolls across the room and sticks his hands out and is like an outfielder in baseball, catching our son.
And they started yelling, "Turtle, turtle." So I was like, am I giving delivery to a turtle? Like, what the hell?
But he did a diving catch of our son. So that was how our first one was born.
Second one went much better.
Yeah, because it was at a regular hospital.
Yeah, and a good doctor. So
but yeah, so that's that. So when I say she earned her stripes, so we were in Washington D.C. Brand new mother. You were how old?
20.
You just turned 20.
I turned 20 in October. We had Ian in April.
So brand new mother. So when we got married, when we say she's a Marine's wife and not a Marine wife,
I was gonna say,
and not a Marine's wife, so she got this little book, and we still got it someplace.
Roses and Thorns.
It's called Anchors and
No, it's Roses and Thorns.
Anyway, it's this little pamphlet that they give Marine wives.
Not little. It's not little.
Yeah, it's little. It's
not.
Anyway,
it's a tiny book.
Yeah, the book is small, but there's a lot in it.
A lot.
But it tells them what's expected of a career Marine wife.
Yeah.
Yeah. So she got the choice. She can be a professional Marine wife, or she can be a dependopotamus living in base housing.
Colonel Boggs was so impressed by the two of us. He was begging you to stay.
Yeah, he wanted me to stay in. But she, she's 20 years old. I was 25.
Something like
when
that.
25. And all my buddies we were all corporals and sergeants. And she was everybody's mom.
I don't know about
at 20 years old, we were the only married ones in the group.
No, that's not true. Nicole and her husband were married.
Yeah,
because I had to deal with that
private.
situation.
He was a private. He wasn't an NCO.
Yeah, that was the sucky part too, because as a Marine wife, you had to deal with bad things that came in.
Yes. So
and there's a at that time anyway, there's a code of silence, and so you have to deal with things behind the door.
Spousal abuse. There was spousal abuse going on,
and you just have to deal with things.
We had to deal with it.
Yeah.
But she did at the age of 20. She took that mantle on. She took care of all my buddies, babysat them when they needed babysat.
They took care of me too.
Well, they did, and they took care of Ian.
Yeah.
All those assholes.
Oh my gosh, first birthday.
Oh, so our son's first birthday. We're in Washington D.C. There were 15 Marines, 3 wives, and 2 1-year-olds. Our son was one of them.
Yeah.
So the party was not for our son. It was for all the Marines.
Yeah.
Imagine this. Imagine a bunch of drunk. Again, remember I said we were drinking?
No, at that time, Al Gore's speechwriter was living next door to us. And so, and then we had, they were from South Africa, but do you remember where Okechiko's parents, do you remember where they were from?
Zimbabwe. Or not Zimbabwe, Zaire.
And so they were, what do you call them?
He was a political attaché at the embassy.
And so they lived next door to us. And so, these are the type of people where we lived. It just is that way in DC.
But we had 15 drunk Marines. We had a piñata, lots of alcohol, and it was a blast. But you know what those a-holes did? They got my son a great big bag, a huge bag. It was monstrous, wasn't it?
Oh, I thought you were going to talk about the reenactment with Iwo Jima.
That too. So they knocked it. It wasn't Iwo Jima. It wasn't Iwo Jima. It was Bennett practice with the broomstick and the piñata. So that went on. But they brought my son this huge, monstrous bag.
Chocolate
covered Planters peanuts.
Yeah, but I think it was like a cookie, right?
No, they were chocolate covered peanuts.
No, because he was only a year old. I think it was like a chocolate covered cookie or something.
Listen, I don't care what it was. All I know is
it was bad.
He had chocolate from ear to ear and from chin to hairline.
Yeah. So if Huffman is listening.
Oh yeah, Lynn, if you show up,
you are the one. Yeah, you're the one that did that.
Yes, he's one of the ones.
No, I think it was his idea. I'm pretty sure.
But
so
so he
was laughing the hardest.
You know what though? They loved our son. They took care of our son.
Yeah.
And they took care of you.
Yeah.
And they treated you really well.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I also remember me being on duty and you going up and picking their drunk asses up and taking them back to their houses and stuff.
That's no big deal. No big deal. That's what we're there for. That was the one thing I would say about the Marine Corps that was different growing up in the Navy. And not that they weren't family, because we did create family. My mom and dad did. Mm-hmm. My godparents, my godfather is actually VS-31 along with my dad. And miraculously, we kind of seemed to get transferred everywhere together.
Oh my God, I couldn't get rid of these people.
Stop it.
I couldn't. Seriously, folks. No, I could. Okay, so
why do you want to get rid of them? I love Angie.
Her godparents and grew up in Belton, Missouri, which was about.
No, they were in Kansas City area.
They were in Belton.
They moved to Belton.
They were moved to Belton. Mm-hmm. So we were in the Marine Corps.
Mm-hmm.
We were in Washington D.C. and her dad got out of the Navy and decided they were moving out of Southern California.
He was already out of the Navy.
Her parents, literally without knowing it, moved into a house.
No, they knew it.
No,
it was a plan.
No, they didn't. No, they did not know that. They moved that first house that they moved.
Purposely moved to Belton because Miss Diana and Mr. Rick were down the street.
No, that house in Hickman Mills, they moved literally.
That was before the condo, after the condo.
No, that was before the condo.
No, it was after the condo. The condo.
Listen, folks,
you were so backwards.
Listen, all I know is her parents.
My dad was in here.
All I know is that her parents moved into a house that was half a from the house I grew up in as a kid.
That was Hickman Mills, but that was after. Was
it after the condo?
That was after the townhome in Belton, because they were in Markey Place.
So I could not. It was really creepy people. It was like they were following us.
No,
like they knew.
They were following us because we're family.
They knew I was from Kansas City, and they moved into the same neighborhood I grew up.
They were also from Kansas City. Quit being a church.
So creepy.
Quit. All right, he's pushing me off the chair. My legs
I'm
going
not
numb.
pushing you off.
You kind of, I mean, like
I
half
haven't
my
moved.
thigh. I've got like a quarter bone on the chair, and it's going numb. So I can't. My toes are.
Hey,
starting
Grateful
to
Hearts,
go.
how you doing?
Yeah. So here, move. Can you move your butt
Here,
just a
you want
little
me
bit
to-
more?
You want me to move over? You want me to put
Oh,
one,
right there. Yeah. No,
one
that's
butt
good.
cheek on the chair?
Yeah.
You can't stay very long if I have to sit like this.
I can go. You guys have fun. So anyway,
Well,
yeah.
these are good stories, though. You know what? These are the stories that made us who we are.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, the Marine Corps was a huge part of my life. You know, quite honestly, had I not joined the Marine Corps, I probably would have ended up dead from a bad liver or in jail. That's the trajectory my life was on.
Really? No wonder Grandpa was so upset when he met you.
Oh, as much as I drank when
he probably saw it.
when you met me, as much as I drank,
Good.
I drank more. Seriously, and the people I hung around with were not good people.
Yeah.
So it saved my life. It changed the
Yeah.
trajectory of my life. It gave me a profession that has done us really well, even though I don't like it.
Yeah.
You know, and so that's one of the reasons why I celebrate every year.
Yeah. I think the one thing that screwed me up the most when we moved to DC was that so I had never, he plucked me from the Navy and my parents. And so I had to go buy a dress, get my hair cut. I had to be presentable when we showed up to DC. And then it didn't even matter once we got there.
Because she had a baby.
No, we showed up at 8th and I. Remember, you had to go check in. And so we showed up and they looked at all of his medals on his chest and took you upstairs to rerun to make sure that it was all true.
Oh my God!
Like who goes out and buys different medals for their chest?
Okay, let me tell you this story. This is a good story. This is one of those stories that makes you hate the military. So
jealous people.
So I had this thing when I was in the military, and it was just a matter of luck, quite honestly. So every time I checked into a unit, I was catching the very tail end of a period when they got an award. Navy unit citation, military unit citation, battle ease in the Navy.
Well, that you were there for.
Well, I was there for the for the second one. I wasn't there for the first one. I caught the very tail end of that one. So anyway, as a corporal with 6 years in, I had 3.5 rows of ribbons. Now back then, mind you, we had the Gulf War. It wasn't like today, whenever they've got all these combat things going on.
Yeah.
No. I had partaken in.
Trying to figure out why my hat is crooked.
I had partaken in. Your glasses are crooked. It's not your hat.
Is it? Okay.
I had partaken in 3 campaigns because I caught the tail end of Desert Storm. I caught Southern Watch, and then we did Restore Hope in Somalia. Mm-hmm. So I had caught. So I got 3 campaign ribbons. Plus, I got the Sea Service deployment ribbon. I got a Battle E with a device on it because we got 2 of them.
Is that what they were calling Somalia? Was Restore Hope?
Yeah, that was Restore
Not
Hope. Let's
rescue our fellow Marines.
No, that was before.
Like right before.
No, we were the very first people in. But anyway, so I was extremely lucky. I had, and you got to admit, it looked good.
Oh, it was sexy.
Well, when I had my dress blues on, I looked good.
Yeah.
So I checked in, and the command I was checking into was Marine Corps Institute, which is part of 8th and I in Washington, D.C. And what Marine Corps Institute is, it was their long distance learning thing. So they had a whole bunch of staff NCOs that were quote unquote subject matter experts. Mm-hmm. And these guys were told constantly that they were the guys that knew everything. Mm-hmm. So I checked in, and I swear to God, this happened. I had this guy literally started
berating you, basically.
He started grilling me about all my ribbons, like I was wearing ribbons I wasn't supposed to wear. And this dude literally ran. The Marine Corps Institute was 3 blocks away. The Marine Corps Institute was down in the Navy Yard.
Yeah, it's longer than 3 blocks.
And Marine Corps Barracks 8th and I was about 2-3 blocks north of there, up I Street. And this guy literally ran up to the S1 and pulled my service record book because he was bound and determined
to prove him wrong.
To prove me wrong.
And I had to sit there and watch it because I was going to learn what a fraud you were.
Yeah, it was
Ridiculous.
terrible.
Absolutely ridiculous.
Okay, Jasper's mom. I I was in Somalia. Right, I got the ribbon for Somalia. Full disclosure, we were there for the invasion. I spent the entire invasion day, or it wasn't invasion, it was landing day. I spent the entire landing day kitted up in my gear, my flak jacket. We drew ammo, we drew weapons. Actually, we didn't draw weapons, we drew ammo. The weapons were still in the armory. And we sat in the ready room in our space on the Ranger.
They were ready to go. So if you remember, and we were watching this back at home, so I'm sure you were too, Jasper's mom. So what we were watching, and because of where my mom worked, my mom was in MWR and my dad's status in the Navy, we were getting information that we probably shouldn't have had, but we were getting the heads up as things were going down. And there was a leak, and the leak went straight to the press. And so when SEAL Team 1, right? SEAL Team 1 or 2, when they went
I think it was one.
When SEAL Team 1, right, Scott was in there,
Yeah.
SEAL Team 1. So when SEAL Team 1 went to go up on the beach, the news media lit up the beach. There was no surprise. This was either going to go super bad or it was going to go flat.
And I ought to go on. I got on YouTube and see if that's on there because it was on CNN. It was on.
It might be.
We watched it on TV.
Mhm.
So we literally spent the entire day sitting in the ready room, waiting for an aircraft to go down. Because our job. You ever watch Behind Enemy
rescue,
Lines?
Basically,
the movie Behind Enemy Lines, where the pilot goes down, and at the very end of the movie, the Marines come in on the helicopters and rescue him.
Mhm.
That was our job, and that's what
to get the secret stuff out of the helicopter, right? The mechanics and everything, so it's not taken.
Yeah, if anything crashed, we
take whatever you don't want the other.
So we did a lot of training on pilot rescue and pulling civilians out of hot zones.
So that's what they were trying to do.
Yeah, so that was our job. Very anticlimactic. The closest I got to land in Somalia was about the Mogadishu. Mogadishu probably has the best deep water port on the east side of Africa, and it's a shame that country's in such a shambles because they could do so much with that port. But we spent Christmas Day anchored half a mile off the quay in a.
You're reminiscing that
Mogadishu. Well, no, it's part of the thing.
When he came home, he said it smelled like a trash dump.
It did. We were half a mile away from land, and we could smell the trash and the burning tires. That's it. And I'm going to say, Black Hawk Down happened 13 months after we left. No, not 13 months. Because we left in January. In fact, we pulled out. We pulled out December 23rd. It was right before Christmas.
20. Let's see, or of 1992.
Because Black Hawk Down happened in October, and we were in Washington D.C. by that time that happened. But I'm telling you right now, the blood that was spilled in that country
for nothing.
No, I would not. Blood. I would not even a drop of American sweat. I wouldn't have wasted on the country. Seriously, it's just that whole Black Hawk Down thing burns me. And I worked with a guy that was in that unit, the Ranger unit, and worked with a bunch of those guys. He was not in Black Hawk Down, but he worked with a bunch of those guys, and he told me some stories. And I'm telling you, that's one of the things that I will dislike Clinton till the day I die because of it. Because he allowed that to happen.
Yeah, it wasn't just Clinton. I mean, go back to when my dad served in Vietnam. My dad did 3 tours in Vietnam.
You know what? Though?
My dad will tell you every time that was nothing more than an oil war. Clinton. And now look at where we're at with Russia and China. This next war that's coming up is nothing more than an oil war.
Clinton was responsible.
No, I'm not saying he wasn't. I'm just saying it's all about money. So
anyway, but we don't want to talk about politics.
Now, let's make it happy.
We want to talk about
and so that was one of the things I would say, probably the best thing about the Marine Corps. I think we had some of the best, and I'm just going to call them brothers. We had some of the best brothers. And there was one shithead that ended up being a real jerk.
Well, he didn't end up being a shithead till after we got out.
He was probably a shithead then, and we just didn't know.
You know what this woman did? Oh my God, I can't believe. So we are transiting. We are transiting from the Gulf to Somalia. I'm on duty. I'm sitting in. So our job when the ship was underway was to protect the ammo magazines, and so they had taken all the nuclear weapons off the ships, but we still had all the guidance packages for the nuclear weapons, and so that was our job. So we had to stand guard duty every other day, or every third day, because there were 3 squads. So anyway, I'm sitting in the guard shack, and the phone rings.
No.
Let
me give the back end. Let me give the back
end.
end.
Let me tell the story.
There was a reason.
Hey, Mayhem.
There was a reason why I did it.
But anyway, so I'm sitting in the guard shack, minding my own business. It was a regular day. It was boring as shit. The phone rings. I pick it up. It's the officer of the day. And I'm like, yes, sir. And he goes, you've got a phone call. I'm like, what? You've got a phone call. I'm putting it through. I hear a click because they made the switch. And all of a sudden I hear, are you okay? We're in the middle of the Indian Ocean.
No, you were
247th birthday there, Mayhem. Oh my gosh.
No, you were in the Gulf still.
Were we?
Yeah,
had we not?
You were in the
listen,
Gulf.
all I know is I'm in the middle of the Gulf. I'm drawing hazardous duty pay, and my wife is calling me on the phone.
Yep.
Just ask, and I was like, how the hell?
It pays to have parents who know how to do things and
how
know
the
how
hell
the
did
military
you contact
works.
me?
Okay, so basically what happened, we heard 2 helicopters went down and pilots were deserted. And so
and that happened in the Gulf.
Part of the Key Wives Club, we all get together. And so it was Jill and I, and Jill called me and she said, did you hear what's going on? And I was like, no. And so she filled me in, Dave's wife. And so she filled me in.
The $400 junkie cat.
Yeah. Oh, you talked about that already.
Not yet. I'm going to as soon as this story's over.
And so then, she had called me, and then my mom walked in the door and she goes, I don't know how to tell you this. Here's what just happened. And so it's like, oh crap. And then all we knew is that there was a back wall of, I don't know. I don't even know. I'd call them soldiers, but the Iraqis or whoever they were, coming in, Taliban coming in. And
it was in Iraq. So
we were trying to figure out what was going on. So nobody knew how to get a hold of him. And I asked my mom, I said, well, is there something I can do? How can I get over there? And she goes, if you put your mind to it, she goes, just call the operator. And so I called the overseas operator and I told him to put me into the USS Ranger.
So I'm
Mardet unit, and I got
I'm in a combat zone. I'm getting a phone call from my wife when I'm on duty. Is this
those overseas operators have no idea. So any of wives out here, just for future reference.
Jasper's mom said she did that same thing.
Yep.
That same thing.
Yep. And so the overseas operators do not know what the security plan is and that we cannot talk to our husbands. So use them to your benefit. They can hardly speak English, so you might as well just go ahead and use them to your benefit. Yep. They'll put you right through. So that's how I did that.
You know what? As disturbing as it was, thinking that she could find me, she literally tracked me down on the opposite side of the world.
Track you anywhere.
As disturbing as that was, it was really nice knowing she cared.
Yeah. Yeah. We just want to make sure everybody was okay. Make sure you were okay.
Well, if I remember, it was a 47 off of the Evo or
I can't remember.
It wasn't the Blue Ridge. It was a 47 that went down.
I can't remember what it was, but I mean, I've slept since then, but it was so ugly and it was so, yeah. So happy birthday, I guess. So
I still want a cigar.
Yeah, no cigars. And so, yeah, so it was just when you get that news coming back home, and then we didn't have the media that was kind of twisting things and making it seem not so bad. So we were getting real stories back home. So it was bad. And we just needed to make sure that you guys were okay.
You know, one of the coolest things when we were in Somalia that happened? So that we had a guy that came over from the USS Blue Ridge, which was the
Grateful Hertz Ranch. She had a better end. Or he did. It's like I was Air Force comms, all kinds of phone calls while I was away. See,
Dude,
you should have
you
been a
know what?
comms guy.
Use those skills, baby. Use those skills. But we had a guy. He was literally sleeping in the bunk above me, in the berthing area. He came over from the USS Blue Ridge, and he was a photo analyst. He was an intel guy, and his job was to identify targets and then do battle damage assessment, which is what they do after they blow something up. They take another picture and they figure out if it worked or not. This guy, Corey would bring these photos down. He'd come into the det and he'd go, guess what I did today? And he'd lay these photos out and he'd go, you see that? That's a Somali BMP. You see this? That's what it looks like now. And it would be like this big scorch mark in the desert with metal parts strewn all over the place.
I got a letter from him one time, and I was like,
let's
what
talk about letters.
What in the world is going on? And so I'm reading this letter, and it was right. No, so after the letter, they were just practicing, but this was before the bombs started getting put onto the ships and everything from the Iran and all of that to blow them up. And so he's like, I'm having so much fun here. And I'm like, what's going on? And so I read through the letter, and they're literally on those great big huge guns, right? And they see anything. What was it, a barge or anything like that? And they're just blowing it away. Blah, 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 blah. And I'm just getting all these letters about how much fun he's having.
Oh, we had a blast in the Gulf. Mayhem Studio says, when I was in Afghanistan, we had comms blackouts whenever something went wrong. An operation, it was very prevalent. Operation Red Wing was some bad juju.
Yeah.
That was bad.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I don't know. You want to go back to your Marine Corps stories? I'll go check in. I got all the cannings finished, so I'm done.
You?
Yeah.
Do you?
It's done.
We got some decent videos coming up.
Well, I wouldn't say that.
She's been doing some canning.
Well, I still wouldn't say they were decent.
I remember that, Mayhem, when my former sister-in-law was over there. Yeah. Yeah, that's one thing I'll say. Complete transparency. When I was in the military, I never got shot at. In fact, as a civilian, I've been shot at more. Quite frankly, I never got shot at when I was in the military. The closest we came to guns blazing was when we were in the Gulf, we would do a racetrack pattern up the Iranian coast, across the top of the Gulf, back down around the bottom, down by the Straits of Hormuz, and we did that for 4 months. And every time we would go up north, up near where the Iranians had their oil platforms and everything, that they would mess with us. And we, like, every time we go up there, they had this helicopter. It was a UH-1 helicopter.
Hey, babe, I want to check out on this point.
Okay.
I love you.
I love you too.
Happy birthday.
But they had this UH-1 helicopter that would come from a air station on the coast and fly straight towards the boat. It would come straight towards us, and we had a 5-mile exclusion zone. So what an exclusion zone is you cannot fly within that airspace or we'll shoot you down, basically. They would fly straight towards the exclusion zone. They would hit the edge of it, and they would circle around it and then go out to one of the oil platforms. So they would constantly screw with us. So one time we're floating up towards the top of the Gulf, and it was night, and I was actually out on one of the gun mounts. We were on a 50 cal gun mount, and we're up there, and they had these ships. They're called dhows. They're fishing boats that the Arabs use, and they're all over the Gulf. You can't swing a cat without hitting one. And so we're floating around, and we had surface radar. One of our Marines was always on surface radar, and so they're watching this stuff, and they're like, yeah, there's a fleet of dhows off the starboard beam. Keep an eye on it, make sure they don't get close enough. We're like, okay, cool. And all of a sudden these patrol boats come out, and the Iranians they were basically Boston whalers, but they had 20 millimeter cannons on the front of them, and they would They came screaming out of the port on the coast straight towards us. We're trying to keep a national international incident from happening. So we changed course, and so we ended up swerving towards this this Dow fleet, this fishing fleet, and we've got night vision goggles on, and all of a sudden, I was not the first one to see it, and I hear across the. I was a gun commander, so I had the earphones on. I'm listening to what's going on the net, and all of a sudden, I hear across the net somebody goes, "They've got freaking guns out there," and the guy that there our lieutenant was in charge right at the point. He's like, "What are you talking about?" He said, "There's freaking boats out here with great big freaking guns," and so naturally I'm on the NVGs. I'm like, what the hell's going on? They had taken these Boston whalers and stuck them in the middle of this fishing fleet, and what the boats came out of the port on the east side of the Gulf, and they had forced us closer to these fishing fleets. We were close enough that we could see these guys loading ammo into their guns, and I'm on a 50 cal. We're on a 50 cal mount, and we had sandbags. We literally had a row of sandbags around us, and so I'm looking through my night vision goggles. I'm like, holy fuck, they're loading ammo. These are 25 millimeter guns. They would zip right through these sandbags. They would make mincemeats of us if we started getting a gunfight. And so, without thinking, and I'm not proud of this, without thinking, I'm sidestepping and I'm getting further and further away. And my buddy who's actually on the gun itself, he's literally behind the gun. He's got his fingers on the trigger. They had told us to pull the pins so that we could move the guns, whatever, and they told us to load the ammo. We were one step away from going guns hot. And he looks over at me. He goes, "Get your ass back over here." And I was like, my pride got the best of me, and I was like, I can't let him down. So I traced my butt back over next to the gun. I stood right there, and I was like, I looked at him. I was like, dude, if we die, we're gonna die together. He goes, "Hoorah!" It was the closest I came to getting into some serious trouble when we were in the Gulf, and actually in the entire Marine Corps. But so anyway, it's just the stuff that goes on, and this stuff goes on all the time. I knew guys that were in Nigeria. In fact, one of the guys that I drank with when I was in Camp Lejeune, um, had his helmet, had a sniper shoot his helmet when they were in the embassy in Nigeria. They were evacuating people. So this stuff goes on all the time, and the Marine Corps tends, because we guard the embassies and stuff. Or not we. I never guarded. In fact, one of the reasons I ended up on C duty because I did not want to guard an embassy. It's a sucky job. Yeah, Mayhem, you're absolutely right. For a AK, I would bet my life on a sandbag, but for a 25 millimeter cannon, yeah. If the shooting started that night, I was pretty sure we were going to die. Because tracers go both ways. You know, we would have won the night, but I don't think anybody on that side of the ship would have freaking would have survived. Seriously. But, so yeah, listen. I hope you guys have enjoyed the stories. I'm honestly, I'm glad Yoda stepped in, because she is she is an integral part of my Marine Corps story. In fact, she is the one. So I love being in the Marine Corps. I seriously, it made me who I am today. And every time I put the uniform on, every time I woke up in the morning, I wanted to put the uniform on. And we got to Washington D.C., and it's the unit I was in was a dog and pony show. Seriously, I knew I was in trouble when I was the day I was checking in. They were vacuuming dirt and painting rocks. It's where they do the. If you ever have you seen the nightly parades where they march and they do everything. So 8 months out of the year, we were doing a Tuesday night parade at the Iwo Jima Memorial in Washington D.C. And then on Friday, we were doing a parade at Marine Barracks. And we did that twice a week for 8 months. And so there were 2 nights a week where I was not getting home until 1 or 2 in the morning. And then I had to turn around and be at PT at 6. So it was rough. And we had a brand new kid, and the Marine Corps announced that while I was at DC that we were going to the deployment times were going to change from 40% of the time to 60% of the time. And I knew what it was like being married. I knew the divorce rate. I did not want that to happen. And I was getting very depressed at the time. And I woke up one morning and I rolled over and I looked at Angela and I said, I don't want to put the uniform on, which was a huge freaking step because every place I'd been, no matter how shitty it was, I always wanted to put the uniform on. And she looked at me and she said, it's time to get out. And this was, gosh, maybe 2.5 weeks before I got out. I mean, it was like a really short time. No, 2.5 months. It was a really short time. And she flat out told me, she said, if you don't want to put the uniform on, it's time to get out. And I was like, okay, you're right. And then the Marine Corps, the unit, in their infinite wisdom, they probably had things happened right. I probably could have changed my mind. In fact, I had Major Wayne Boggs, probably the finest Marine Corps officer I ever served under. Stopped me at one day when I was on duty. Flat out told me, he said, Gary, you don't need to get out. And I knew it was serious because he used my first name. And out of all the officers I ever served under, I probably respect him the most. He was a Marine's Marine. He was extremely. You know what? If you've been in the military, you've dealt with officers that are like this. That they are the officer. You know what? And so he wanted me to stay in, and I couldn't do it. And I probably, after I got out, I looking back on it, with 30 years of retrospect, I was probably clinically depressed when I got out. And there's a whole bunch to it. There's the whole changing of the getting out of the Marine Corps, and then I was one of the 500,000 that got that experimental anthrax shot, and depression was one of the side effects that they finally admitted happened. I probably had undiagnosed depression because of it, but quite honestly, the time I spent in the Marine Corps was probably aside from my kids being born and my time with my wife, the best time I had in my life. And the 2 years I was on sea duty, oh my God, we got to do so much cool shit. Seriously. Mayhem, what a way to end the week. Marine Corps birthday today, followed by you gonna get a haircut and a free pancakes at Denny's. You know what? We're gonna go Hacks for the Homesteader and he was on earlier. I don't know if he's still on. We are gonna go salvage material off a property tomorrow. Had somebody contact one of our subs, as a matter of fact, contact us, and they live extremely close. He said, hey, come take what you want, and went over there and looked at it. A lot of useful material. So hopefully we can get a lot of stuff off it tomorrow. Well, we've been at it an hour and 19 minutes now, hour and 41 seconds. I have really enjoyed this. I hope you guys do too, seriously. Prepper Book Club. You showed up. By the way, if anybody, we can keep going. I am so dialed into this. I'm actually having a lot of fun talking. But I have here. Let me post it again. If you guys want to come up and talk, sorry, I'm beating the microphone up. What do you got? Hey, Adam, how's it going, man? Did you enjoy the cannon? The cannon. Oh, there you go. Happy birthday, Tufelhunde. So that is German for devil dog. Okay. Before we get off, I don't know if we're gonna get off. If people want to keep talking, we'll keep talking. So I told you guys I went to a military academy or military school. What's that, freshman, maybe sophomore year. So I took Latin when I was in high school, and there were two of us in the class. And the Latin teacher was the president of the school. His name was William Sellers Sr. And at the time, he was the highest, the most decorated living Marine in the entire world. We would sit in his class. He had this monstrous oak desk that was hand carved, and it was freaking gorgeous. That we would sit in his class. This man served in World War I as a lieutenant, had got shot by the Germans in Belleau Woods. Now, if you're not familiar with Belleau Woods is one of the major battles in Marine Corps history, where the Marine Corps went in and they spent 3 or 4 weeks clearing out these woods in France. It's Belleau de Marine is what the French call it. That's how important it is. It's still known as the Marines' Woods because of all the fighting that went on. But he got shot by a German machine gun. He was a machine gun platoon leader. Got shot. He's in a stretcher, and he got gassed by mustard gas. So he lost part of his lung because of mustard gas. He's our Latin teacher, and the guy was awesome. He was so awesome, and he was 86 when he had him for a teacher, and he had the best hearing because we'd walk out of the class and we'd start whispering about him. He got, I heard that, cadets, and Colonel Sellers was so awesome. Okay, Mayhem. Cindy, you showed up. Hey, glad you showed up. Mayhem says, I did a video today explaining the history of the Marine Corps. I don't think I did too bad seeing how I was Army. You know, second rate info. I'm sure you did the best you could, Mayhem. You know what? We still love you. Teapot, thanks, G. All you veterans, thank you for your service and freedom. Robert, 101st Airborne, Vietnam, salute. Absolutely. You know, I'm not going to lie. Seriously, the only reason anybody ever joins the Marine Corps, period, for the entire history of the Marine Corps, the only reason anybody joins is so we can talk shit the rest of our lives. We know we're the best. We know that everything we've gone through is the hardest. It's the most intense. Everything we do is the most excellent thing. That's why we did it. We did it so we could talk shit the rest of our lives. You know what? And we talk shit about every other branch, but we love you guys. Seriously. I got friends that were in the Army. I got friends that were in the Navy. I got friends that were in the Air Force. You know what? They're all superb human beings. So Prepper Book Club, where'd you go to high school? Tell us where you went to high school, and where Captain Carey was. I'll tell you what, man, Junior, I love the Marine Corps, but best time of my life spent in the Marine Corps. I met my wife, did the best things we ever did. Junior RTC and RTC at Wentworth Military Academy, dude, some awesome people. In fact, the assistant RTC commander at Wentworth when I was there, his helicopter is literally in the Smithsonian. Colonel John Mills, dude was a badass. Seriously. So there's a series of books out called Squadron Signal books, and they're weapons and profile, and they basically they're these 8x12 paperback books, and they nothing but pictures, and they show everything. So they've got a book about, it's called The Gunslingers in Vietnam, and the first half is about the attack helicopters in Vietnam, and the second half is about the recon helicopters in Vietnam. The entire second half of this book is nothing but pictures about John Mills. Complete badass. He's sitting there. He's got a picture. They had this armor called chicken plate, which was a metal plate that fit down around your chest, went down to your crotch. And so he was in a Cayuse, which was the old Bell, the precursor to the Bell 500 is what it was. He's got a picture. He's standing there with he's got his cavalry hat on. He's got his yellow bandana on that all the cavalry guys used. He's got this metal plate on, and it's got these 3 huge, monstrous dents in the middle of the chest. And so we asked him about it. So they're flying a recon mission in Vietnam, and a machine gun shoots at them. The helicopter's got a plexiglass nose that goes all the way down below their feet. This round comes up through the bottom of the helicopter, hits his chest, and goes out through the roof. And that's how he got the three dents in his chest, because the machine gun literally bounced 3 bullets off his chest. Now he had 11 helicopters shot out from underneath him. And the man was the most badass. Growing up, he was one of the most badass people I ever met. Seriously, as a teenager, I was in complete awe of him. And I still remember, I was in 8th grade at Wentworth. It was 1979. The Iranian hostage situation was going on, and we had a student union type of thing. There was a cantina where we could get sodas and stuff, and a TV room and everything. And so we're watching TV, and they're talking about what's going on in Iran. And he was a major at the time. He retired as a colonel, but he was a major at the time. He walks through, he stops, and he puts his hands on his hips. Now, mind you, he's in his uniform, and he looks at the TV and he goes, "We should bomb the shit out of those people." And he just walks off. As an 8th grader, that was the most awesome thing I'd ever seen. And the way he said it was just fantastic. So, and honestly, I don't even know if he's still alive. I saw there's a YouTube video out there where he did an interview, and he's talking about when they put his helicopter into the museum. And that was 5 or 6 years ago. I don't even know if he's still alive. I hope he is, because he's a superb human being. He probably influenced me more than about 90% of the people in my life. Because I looked at him and I was like, dude, I want to be like that dude. Okay, I missed it. Mayhem Studios, November 10th, 1775, Second Continental Congress approved the formation of 2 Marine battalions. Birthplace, Tun Tavern on Water Street. Captain Samuel Nichols, recruiting officer there. Absolutely. You know what? If we're gonna blame anything bad in the Marine Corps, we're gonna blame Captain Nichols. Seriously, because let's face it, you missed it earlier. You missed it earlier in Mayhem. I made the point. Bug Out. In fact, you know Bug Out. He made the point earlier that the November 10th was a bunch of armed alcoholics celebrating the formation of their cult. Kompai. Yeah, seriously. Okay, you guys want to hear a Marine Corps birthday story? Actually, this one does not paint us in the best light. In fact, it's kind of the ugly American story. So when we went to the Gulf, we had been at sea for 43 days. So in the Navy, when you've been at sea, it used to be when you've been at sea for 42 days, they give you what's called an Iron Beach. They fly beer on, they barbecue meat, and they do all kinds of cool stuff. It's actually pretty fun. We actually had one that actually pretty fun, but they didn't do it. So we pulled into Jebel Ali, which is in the United Arab Emirates, and it was literally November 10th, and the port is probably 20-30 miles, maybe a little bit more from the city. So we all jump on a bus and we go into Jebel Ali, and we went to the Holiday Inn in Jebel Ali. And we were bound and determined we were gonna celebrate the Marine Corps birthday. Long story short, we ended up spending $6,000 on alcohol. So the Gulf states are dry. They've got no alcohol. Yeah, that's a lie. There's a lot of alcohol that flows there. So we started drinking. We spent $6,000 on alcohol November 10th. Um, Things got a little out of hand. The next time we pulled in Jebel Ali, none. When I say none, I mean like zero. Zero hotels in Jebel Ali would let Marines stay in the hotel. In fact, it was so bad. It was so bad that any white person that weekend that tried to check into a hotel, they made them show their ID, and if they were Marines, they kicked it. So we spent the entire weekend. The second time we were in Jebel Ali on the dock. Yeah. So, but we spent. Oh my God. We drank. There were 68 of us in the detachment, and we had one guard section on duty, which was 13 people. So that what 68 minus 13, 50, 52 people. We drank about $5,000-6,000 worth of alcohol in the course of about 5 or 6 hours. And I'm not gonna lie, probably got a little out of hand. The only thing I remember about that evening was at 5 o'clock there was a freaking rooster that was crowing at the top of its lungs on the other side of a wall on the other side of the parking lot from the hotel. We had the window open because it was hot, and if you're ever in the Gulf, the only time it gets cold is at like 2 in the morning. The rest of the time it's freaking hot. Oh yeah, oh yeah, mayhem. We're salute. You know, we were formed in a bar. That's where they did the first recruiting thing, and everybody since then. Although I gotta tell you, I'm not so sure about the modern Marine Corps. So when I was in Okinawa, they had a great big huge change. Used to be they've got what's called MWR, morale, welfare, and recreation, and it's basically the people that run the parks, and they give you money for parties and everything. Um, they changed their policies, and you could not get alcohol for unit events. So naturally, we had to start paying for our own. And when I was in Okinawa, we did it with a vengeance. And had the unit probably they were a little upset. We had a female colonel that took over the unit, and things got things got kind of weird after she took over in Okinawa. Because the whole, well, you can't have alcohol at the unit parties, blah blah blah. Not that stopped us. Like I said, we continued doing it, but it really changed at that point, and it started changing. And I'll be honest with you, I see some of the stuff that's going on now in the Marine Corps. I'm not 100% sure I'm on board with it. I saw a picture the other day. I guess they and again, if there's a marine that's been in like in the last 2 or 3 years, pop in here. The the link is the link's right there. Pop in. But I saw a picture. These guys are supposed to be at boot camp, and they got their phones. Oh hell no! I mean, they monitored the letters that we got. So I don't know. It's a different world. I admit it. I just hope that how do I say this? I hope that the training that they're getting will prepare them for what we're probably in for. Let's just put it that way. Um, I think that the young Marines that are coming in the Marine Corps nowadays are facing uh, they're facing some challenges that I did not have to handle, and they're facing some circumstances. Why I can't believe I just said that word right. The, how do I say it? I wish them the best of luck, and I hope they're strong enough. Seriously. Yeah, you're right, Jasper's mom. A lot has changed, and it really bothers me. As patriots and conservatives, we have always supported our military, and I hope everybody else has. The government, yeah, not so much. You know, I and what's worse is we're facing an entirely different war. We spent the last 2 decades doing an insurgency war, and we're looking at a conventional type of war, and I'm not sure the military is ready for it. Yeah, Mayhem says the modern military has become pretty soft due to the social justice warrior movement. This is why the public shouldn't see what the military does for training. This, yeah, you know, um, I think you're 100% right. Uh, and we do a disservice. It's as a nation we should expect more. We should no we should demand more. These people, they are at one point I was one of these people. Because I Tag and I did a video tonight about it, and the conversation came up. We're victims of we're victims of the system. We're victims of the people that want to take advantage of. We're prey. They preyed on us. You know what? I told him. I said, number one, I'm not a victim. I've never been a victim. Number two, uh, I joined the Marine Corps with both eyes open. I knew exactly what I was getting in for, and in fact, when I was in boot camp, I told my mom, I said I love you, but if I have to go to war, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go 100%. And what I was trying to do, it was there was a bunch of stuff going on with Iran at the time, and it was looking like we might go to war, and I was trying to prepare. I was like, I'm gonna do this. Um, it just the stuff that's going on now, and what these people have to deal with. I hope that we serve them properly as civilians, Marine veterans, military veterans. I hope that we take care of these people properly. I'm not gonna lie, that the bourbon's starting to kick in, starting to get a little philosophical, starting to get a little. In fact, if I was able to drop shrooms right now, this conversation would just be all over the place. Okay, folks, we are at almost an hour and 40 minutes, and the evening did not go quite like I had planned. I was gonna try to tell the story in a linear fashion. Yoda popped in, and I love her, and she, you know what? My Marine Corps story is her Marine Corps story, and her stories make me who I am today. So I really enjoyed it. I'm actually glad she popped in. Um, if you guys got any questions, go ahead and ask them. Mayhem says there is reasoning behind why we trained the way we train. It will look cruel to those outside looking in, but war is chaos, and you have to condition yourself for chaos. You know what? You missed it. You missed it, Mayhem. Somebody asked the question, or I think it was Farmer Corey, uh, said that they could never understand the screaming and yelling in Marine Corps boot camp. And what you said is exactly why that type of training goes on, because they're trying to stress people out and trying to get people so that they can function under high stress situations. And quite honestly, you listen, if you're a civilian and you're doing any training with a firearm or anything, here's what you do. Go buy a big package of firecrackers. And as you're doing your training, you should never be doing training by yourself, because you always need somebody there to critique you and tell you what you're doing wrong. But as you're doing your training, have them light off firecrackers and throw them at you. And when I say throw them at you, I mean chuck them at you. They should be bouncing off your back. Um, have those things going off near you, and see what kind of pressure that puts you under. You'll become a much better shooter if you do that. You know. Well, Scanes, I'm glad you enjoyed it. I really, seriously, I enjoyed doing this. Like I said at the beginning, this this live stream was actually we're going to do the conflicted game later on this month, and I wanted to do a test run. I wish somebody would have come up here with me, uh, but it's cool. We'll figure it out. Uh, I really enjoyed it. I'm glad Yoda sat in with it, and because she gives, seriously, she gives a completely different view on being in the Marine Corps. Because I don't care what anybody says. If you're a Marine and your wife is engaged, she's a Marine wife, and what she says and what she went through is just as valid as what you did. You know, and I hope maybe we'll do some more of these sea stories, because quite honestly, we got sidetracked. I've got some good ones. I've got stories that involve 1980s rock and roll people. I got stories that involve foreign law enforcement. No, maybe I shouldn't tell that story. We'll figure that one out. Um, we got stories that involve national security. Yeah, actually, no, maybe I shouldn't tell that one either. Never mind. We'll figure it out. We'll figure it out whenever it happens. Mayhem says the group I train now with, we do stress shooting. We tell them we blow whistles, air horns, tap them on the head, shoulders with a stick, and then we do push up. Yeah, you know what, Mayhem? That is probably, as a civilian, that's probably the best training you can get. Seriously, I look at the training that's going on, and I used to be, when I was in the Marine Corps, I was a mobile training team instructor as part of the things I did when I was on sea duty. The training that goes on in a lot of places is terrible. Seriously, people do not learn how to do it properly. And that's probably the biggest thing. All right, folks, listen, we're going on an hour and 45 minutes. Um, I really enjoyed this. You guys did a great job in helping me figure out how to do this when the time comes to do the conflicted game. Um, if you guys got anything else, just go ahead and pipe in now. We'll see if we can address it. Arthur says military today can't even converse with my era. They don't know what a mess hall is. It's called a DFAC, Arthur. Uh, exactly. You know what, Arthur? Okay, here's the deal. I'm gonna. This is my last parting thing about the Marine Corps. So when you join the Marine Corps, everybody that joined the Marine Corps before you did is considered old Corps. Everybody that joined the Marine Corps after you did, they're boots. Doesn't matter when you joined. So when I joined, I had guys that served in Vietnam. In fact, I had this staff. I had this. He was a gunnery sergeant. He was a mortarman in Vietnam, and he had this nervous tick. He smoked Camel cigarettes continuously, like the whole time he was at work. He would smoke it down to the filter, and then he would stack them up in little pyramids like they were mortar shells. These are the guys. These are the guys I served with. Had another one. Kept a bottle of Jack Daniels in the bottom drawer of his desk. Every morning, he would pour himself black coffee, put Jack Daniels in it. Try getting away with that today. Seriously, didn't work. Had another one. We did support for 2nd Land Battalion, which is an air defense battalion that did Hawk 2 missiles. They had this. He was, when I was in Yuma, Arizona, he was the oldest master sergeant in the Marine Corps. He had a flak jacket from Vietnam that he wore, and it had 2 little puncture holes in it. And we were over there. We were working on his computer, and we started talking. And we were like, top, what's the deal with this flak jacket? And he looks at it and he goes, that's the flak jacket I wore in Vietnam. See those 2 holes? We got into a drunken conversation, and we're trying to decide if it would save our life. And my buddy had a 32 caliber gun, and so we were like, okay, let's check it out. So this dude literally stood there and let his buddy shoot him with the 32 caliber, not once but twice. So he had these 2 little holes. These are the type of people. These are the type of people that used to be in the Marine Corps. Now I don't know what it's like now. Seriously, I hope they're still creating warriors like what when I joined, and I seriously hope that oh my God, how do I say it? We as a nation are going to face some very hard times, and our military is going to be faced with some circumstances that is going to test them, and I hope to hell that they're ready to go. Oh my God! Oh mayhem! I had a colonel that dipped, and we never saw him spit. The dude gutted it. Respect. You can't get any more hardcore than that. Hey, Can Squatch, how you doing, man? Glad you showed up. Hey, listen, we're going on an hour and 50 minutes. I actually have some stuff I got to do tomorrow. We are Darren from Hacks from the Homesteader and I are going over to a property that's sort of nearby, not really. We're gonna go over to a property and we're gonna salvage some material. And I hope you guys enjoyed this. Again, I appreciate y'all showing up. When we do our conflicted night, this is going to make it so much better. Till next time, what do we always say? Go live a life done free. All right, folks. You guys, take care. Everybody be free. Go hug a Marine.